Jaden drove the car down the deserted road and thought about his new home. He would finally be alone, away from the hustle and bustle, people, friends, acquaintances, family, and most importantly Leah and John, his ex-girlfriend and ex-best friend. Maybe he wouldn't care so much if it wasn't for the wedding. Jaden even bought the rings he had just thrown out the window. The guy took this cheating very hard. Therefore, he immediately packed his things and rented a house away from people for a month. He found it on the internet, or rather the house itself found Jaden. While the guy was sitting and browsing for a place to get away, an advertisement with this very house on a hill popped up in the corner. The landlord promised complete solitude and pure nature all around. The pictures pleased Jaden and he immediately got into his car. It took about 4 hours to drive, but it wasn't a problem. He just turned the music on full blast and drove at 60 miles per hour. There was that hill on the horizon. The ride up it was quite dangerous, very narrow road, and on the side, literally a step away from him, a cliff. A precipice he could fall into with one awkward turn of the steering wheel. Sure, Jaden was depressed, but not depressed enough to commit suicide over some girl. Thankfully, he made it home unharmed. The owner met him on the porch and handed him the keys right away, taking his money. There was no contract. And for some reason the man flatly refused to go inside and show him anything. With the words, "You'll see for yourself," he got into his old pickup truck and drove away. Perhaps in any other situation and under different circumstances, Jaden would have pursued the matter, but he didn't care about that right now. He just wanted to rest. The lock was very old, and so was the key, so it wasn't easy to open the door, and he didn't get it right the first time, but finally the key gave in and the door opened with a loud creak. The first thing Jaden saw was a large hall. It was clean everywhere, which meant the house was being watched. It looked old and shabby on the outside, but the inside was different. The kitchen could not be called modern, but it had all the necessary equipment, and the dishes would not have to be washed. Opening the refrigerator, the guy was pleasantly surprised. It was completely full of food. The owner of the house took good care of the guests. After all, the nearest store was about 18 miles away. That meant he wouldn't have to leave the house. Jaden spent the rest of the day exploring his new home. Several bedrooms, 2 baths, a library, and even a pool in the basement. Of course, a windowless pool wasn't the best solution, but at least it was there, and thank goodness for that. After walking around the house, he decided to take a look around the neighborhood. Nothing unusual, not a dense forest, a path, some flowers. There was plenty of room to walk around. Jaden just about decided to set up his grill that he brought with him. The first thing the guy grabbed was the grill. He loves grilled food. Maybe if he was lucky, the guy could find some meat in the fridge. To his surprise, there was everything: pork, lamb, beef, and even sausages. There was chicken too, by the way. He decided to get the pork and headed to the grill. While the guy was standing there, he was called out. It was a girl. A young girl. Surprisingly, there were no houses nearby where she was from. He said hello to her and asked how she got here. The girl told of a small settlement not far from here. She lives there and sometimes walks here away from everyone. Jaden introduced himself and decided to ask her name. Mila, the girl answered. He offered her a snack, but she declined, saying she was in a hurry to get home. He nodded to her and continued grilling the meat. After eating lunch, Jaden went to the living room to watch TV. Sitting on the couch, he thought about today. Strange. The landlord promised I'd be all alone here. Okay, well, the girl seems nice, polite. At night, when the boy was already asleep, he heard someone crying in the house. The sound woke Jaden up. What the hell, where the sound was coming from? He hadn't turned off the TV. But when he went down to the living room, he saw that the TV was off and the sound was coming from somewhere else. As it turned out, the crying was coming from the bathroom. When he went inside, he saw a girl in the corner, sitting with her back to him. She was crying. He started to ask who she was and how she got here. But the only answer was crying. He heard a rumble behind him and turned around. The crying stopped immediately. Jaden turned back to the girl, but she was no longer there. How strange. He hadn't had a drink last night, so it was strange. When the guy went out into the hallway, he noticed that his suitcase had fallen. That's where the sound came from. Put it back, he went to bed. The rest of the night was quiet. In the morning, the guy woke up feeling sleep deprived. He checked the bathroom and the hallway again. No one was there. Must have been a dream. For breakfast, Jaden just fried himself some eggs and bacon. At first he wanted to make bacon on the grill, but then he changed his mind. It was faster in the pan. We'll do something on the grill in the afternoon. The guy turned on the TV and collapsed on the couch. He didn't feel like doing anything. Maybe he'd even go out a little later and get some more sleep. That's when he remembered Mila, the girl who had approached him in the yard yesterday. Why did he suddenly think of her? He should go outside and see if she was there. But no, there was no one there. Then Jaden decided to walk a little farther. I'll walk a little further and see what the neighborhood looks like. But he was suddenly walking over a large area, and he didn't want to admit to himself that he was looking for her. But what else was strange? He didn't see a single settlement on the horizon. How strange. Where could she have come from? A little frustrated, Jaden walked back. In the afternoon he decided to grill the lamb. But the girl didn't come in the afternoon either. He thought she would smell it and come, but that was a very stupid assumption. She wasn't a dog. So till evening there was no one. The guy was sad watching TV and munching on popcorn. Too bad he forgot to bring his console. He could have played something. Then he heard a knock on the door. With unexpected speed the guy jumped up and ran to the door. Without looking through the peephole, he immediately opened it and looked out. It was empty. Jaden closed the door disappointedly. As soon as he stepped away from it, there was another knock on the door. The guy jumped outside asking, "Mila?" No one there. Of course not, idiot. Why would she come out here in the dark? He slammed the door shut and went back to the TV. There was another knock. What on earth was that? Jaden might have thought it was kids, but there were no kids, and there were no houses nearby. He didn't open the door, but looked through the peephole. It was empty, but there was another knock. Right at the moment when Jaden was looking through the peephole. No one could have knocked. Well, then he saw the doorknob start to turn. Someone was trying to open the door, slowly at first, and then the knob started to twitch harder and harder. But there was still no one behind the door. What the hell? When Jaden looked through the peephole again, he jumped back in horror. He saw something there. He sat on the floor in complete shock, but then he found the strength to get up and walk to the door. Holding back his fear, he looked through the peephole. It was empty, no one was there. Could it be that he had imagined it? He really had the feeling that this was all happening in real life. Jaden locked the door on the second lock and headed for the bathroom for the medicine cabinet. There he found some sedative pills and drank them. Just need to calm down. The recent events must have shaken his psyche a lot. Don't panic, just calm down. Before he'd come here, his friend had told him that depression was best not experienced alone. Now he thought he was right. Late that night, after calming down, he went to sleep. A couple hours later, he woke up. There were some sounds again. What was it? Scraping? Someone scraping. What the hell is that? Jaden jumped out into the hallway with his gun. He always had a gun with him, just in case. The guy yelled throughout the house. He was asking whoever had snuck in to come out. Better show himself or he'd find him and shoot him. No answer. Just a screeching sound. Nerves were on edge. The guy ran between rooms, peering around every corner and aiming at every turn. No one. Just this sound that there was no way it would leave him alone. He walked around the house looking for the source of the sound, but to no avail. Okay, I'll just put on my headphones, put on some relaxing music and go to sleep. As he walked back, Jaden realized with horror that the sound was coming from his room. He walked slowly down the hallway with his gun in front of him. When he reached the room, he slowly peeked around the corner with the gun. There seemed to be no one, just a figure. He saw an unknown figure on his bed. This someone was sleeping right under the covers. No face could be seen. He yelled at him to get up, but the figure didn't move. Then he fired a shot. As soon as the bullet reached that part of the bed, the blanket dropped as if no one was there. But that's impossible. The blanket couldn't lie like that. Jaden walked over and pulled the blanket over himself, and really, there was no one there, no one under the bed either. The boy went to the bathroom, took some sedatives and went to sleep in the other room. Thanks to the pills, he actually slept better. In the morning, he woke up with a headache. God, this place was a nightmare. Maybe Jaden had just started going crazy. His head hurt like a hangover. If he'd had a drink last night, he could have blamed it on alcohol. Didn't even feel like eating. All he drank was water. Tried to make himself some coffee for a change, but then it turned him inside out. Doesn't sound like Jaden. The guy really liked coffee, especially liked to make himself fresh coffee in the morning. Even if it didn't bring him any pep, he just enjoyed the process. It was the one drink he could always drink. Eventually Jaden poured himself another glass of water and went to the couch. He should have gone back to the bedroom and changed, but that picture was still on his mind. An unidentifiable figure that scared the hell out of him, an unknown scrambling. But that was not why he was afraid to go there. He was very much afraid of seeing a bullet from his gun. For if it were there, it would mean that all that had happened during the night had not been a dream. After half an hour, with difficulty finding his strength, the lad got up and went to his room. In front of his door he stood up to get his strength once more. What is it? I'm acting like a delinquent schoolboy in front of the principal's office. I'm afraid to open the fucking door, Jaden thought. Exhaling, he pushed the door open. Hell, yeah. There was this bullet hole in the bedding. And the bullet had embedded itself in the floor by the wall. But maybe he was just imagining it, and at night, he was sleepy, so he started doing something crazy. But then he thought, how could the bullet be in the floor? The guy shot obliquely, from top to bottom. If there was no one in the bed, then the blanket was just lying on the bed and wasn't lifted. And if it wasn't lifted, then he couldn't physically hit it. Now the blanket was lying slightly crumpled, but it was not high enough for the bullet to hit it during the shot. If it was lying the way it was now, there was no way Jaden could have hit the floor next to it. It would have penetrated the mattress. Either there were two bullets fired. But looking around the room, the guy realized there had only been one shot. He just grabbed his clothes and walked out of the bedroom. Sometimes it was better not to think about it. The more he thought about it, the more inconsistencies he found. I need a distraction. Right, the grill. How could he forget about his favorite grill? Jaden grabbed some sausage and headed outside. For some reason he enjoyed the grilling process. It calmed him down. It distracted him from his bad thoughts. Then the guy heard his name. When he turned around, he saw her. After that night, he had completely forgotten about the girl who had occupied all his thoughts yesterday. But he's glad she was here. Now he would definitely be distracted. He asked her why she didn't come yesterday. The girl replied that she couldn't always show up here. Jaden smacked himself on the head. Of course, idiot. She could still have things to do besides walking around outside this house with a crazy tenant. Once again he offered her sausages, but once again she declined. Mila was thin, maybe she was on a diet. He decided not to insist. Jaden decided to ask where her settlement was. He had looked around yesterday but didn't see anything. Mila said it was under the hill. He couldn't see it from here. He suddenly decided to ask her to show him the settlement, but the girl said no. It's hard to get in and they don't like visitors. Strange, Jaden thought, living like savages if they're not even willing to meet new people. But he decided not to say it out loud. Suddenly, Jaden saw a squirrel running up a tree, and he noticed it immediately. Mila ran to the tree to get a closer look. She was so cute looking for the squirrel with her eyes that the guy decided to grab his phone and take a picture of it. By the time she turned around, he had already managed to take a few pictures of her. Mila noticed this and decided to take a picture together. The guy was happy about this proposal and immediately called her to come. After this small photo shoot, Jaden decided to invite the girl into the house. But for some reason she didn't want to stay, and saying that she had to go, she quickly disappeared behind the trees. I should have invited her to dinner, but okay. I'll invite her later and maybe get her phone number, the guy thought. The rest of the day went by without any changes, no scraping or knocking on the door. For some reason it was at night that it all happened. In the evening, sitting on the couch, he decided to look at the pictures he had taken today. It pleased him to think that now he could look at her whenever he wanted. Except that wasn't the case. When the guy started flipping through the photos, he was stunned. There was nothing on them. Trees, forest, sky, grass, but not Mila. Mila wasn't in the pictures. Maybe his phone had been dumb and he'd taken the pictures later, when she'd already left. Jaden was actively looking for excuses for what he'd seen, but when he got to the last photo, he realized it was impossible to explain. The photo was of himself, only without the girl. Even though this photo was a joint photo, it even showed Jaden putting his arm out, lightly embracing. Air? No, that's crazy. Something is wrong with my phone, or with me, the guy thought. He puzzled for a long time how this could have happened, but to no avail. He really had no idea why the girl didn't show up in the photo. Maybe she was a vampire? Yeah, Jaden, you're really going crazy, he thought. He decided to sleep in the other room again that night. Maybe something would change. In the night, he was awakened again by an unknown sound. Knocking on the window. But looking at the window, Jaden was convinced it was a tree branch knocking. Although the wind isn't that strong today, weird. But to be honest, that knocking is a little disturbing. Then Jaden decided to go to sleep in the room across the hall. He went in, fell on the bed, and was about to fall asleep, but he heard the knocking again. Are there trees at every window? Jaden thought he was going to try to fall asleep with that sound, but he was very wrong. That knocking was just driving him crazy. Then he decided to get up and look for a room where it wouldn't happen. But as soon as he got up and looked toward the window, he was stunned. There was a man looking at him, with withered skin like a dead man. He stared unblinkingly at the guy and groaned, no emotion on the dead man's face. Jaden screamed in fear and ran down the hallway, running into other rooms. He realized with horror that that dead man wasn't alone. They are everywhere and knocking on every window, even those windows on the second floor. Jaden was sure he was about to just go crazy with fear. He decided to call someone, but there was no connection. He should get his car and get out of here, but he was too afraid to go outside. Except there was no choice. Jaden grabbed his car keys and ran downstairs in a t-shirt and shorts, forgetting all about his clothes. Just as he opened the door, he saw Mila. Yes, it was Mila, only dead. Jaden immediately slammed the door shut and locked it with 2 locks. The knocking was everywhere, then the guy decided to run to where there were no windows. The bathroom. He ran inside, locked himself in and sat in the corner, then turned on the water in the sink to drown out the knocking from outside completely. He sat like that for an hour and then fatigue overcame him and the guy fell asleep. When Jaden woke up, it was 8 o'clock in the morning. Finally, it was all over. He closed the faucet and slowly got out of the tub. Quiet, still and light. He calmed down. The morning always protected him from these nightmares. The first thing Jaden was going to do was call the landlord and find out what was going on here. He called for a long time and more than once, but no one answered on the other end, and then the call automatically dropped. This is all so weird. Okay, I think it's time to pack, Jaden decided. There weren't many things, but somehow he'd managed to scatter them all over the house, and it took him a long time to find them. After a couple hours, Jaden decided to call the owner again. Nothing. He should call a friend, maybe he would know the best thing to do in this situation. His friend Dusty answered right away, as if he was expecting the call. He was aware of what Jaden's fiancée had done, so he was worried about his friend. Jaden sat down in the chair and decided to tell Dusty where he was. Except he didn't know the street, it wasn't even written on the house itself, no coordinates. Then Jaden decided to describe the place in his own words and give him a rough idea of what was nearby. Wait a minute, that old hill that's about 5 kilometers from our lake? Yeah, that's right. There's a lake nearby where we come to fish. What are you doing there? Dusty asked. Is it really possible for anyone to rent there? What's wrong? Jaden asked. Don't you know about this? 3 years ago there was a small settlement under this hill, but one terrible night a giant avalanche came down the hill and covered the settlement. No one survived. They couldn't have, they died in their sleep. You live on a burial ground, man, get out of there. Maybe a week ago, Jaden might have questioned his friend, saying it was bullshit. But now, the guy himself wasn't sure what was real and what wasn't. Jaden quickly grabbed his bags, grabbed the grill, threw everything in the trunk, and drove into town, down the hill. Maybe later he would figure out what had happened here and find the reason for these creepy nights, but not now. Right now he just needed to rest. At the turn the guy looked at the house once more. Still the same creepy house. Except now there was something else. He saw a figure in the window, someone standing and looking right at him from the room he had slept in. It was her, and Jaden knew it.